Hello all, welcome to my YouTube channel. So in today's video we are going to see Terraform authentication for the Azure provider. Like in my last video we have already discussed about Terraform authentication for the AWS provider. So there's a similar concept which we are going to use for Azure provider but at different options. So let's start. So Terraform supports a number of different methods for authenticating to Azure. So there are basically 5 options which we have using Azure CLI. Then we have using a service principal and a client secret. Then we have using a service principal and a client certificate. So client secret and client certificate follow the same process. First you have to create an application object. Then under the application object you have to generate a client secret or client certificate. So if you know how to do with client secret, the similar way you can do for client certificate also. Next we have using a managed service identity, and finally we have using OpenID Connect. So basically in this video I am not going to cover all the 5 options. So we are going to see top 2 options here using Azure CLI and using a service principal and client secret. So, and there is also one recommendation from the Microsoft site. If you are using Terraform non-interactively, like for example if you are using a CI server, in that case you should use service principal or managed service identities. What if you are running Terraform from your local system? Then you should use Azure CLI. So first we have authenticating to Azure using the Azure CLI. So there is one important point, like prior to version 1.20, like 1.19, 1.18, if you're using those versions, then the Azure RM provider used a different method of authorizing by the Azure CLI, where credential reset after an hour. So for example, if you're using the Azure CLI and you have run AZ login command, so what it does basically, it will authenticate with your username, and it will provide a one link. So as soon as you click on that link, it will open a Azure portal window, so you will authenticate. But if you are using the prior version to 1.20, then the credentials will be reset after an hour. So it's recommended you use version 1.20 or later versions, so it will not reset your credentials. So authenticating via the Azure CLI is only supported when using a user account. So if you are using Azure CLI, then you should pass your username, user account. If you are using a service principal, for example via AZ login service principal, you should instead authenticate via the service principal directly, either using a client secret or client certificate. So those things you have to pass if you are using this service principal. So if you have to, so what's the prerequisite if you are using Azure CLI? So there is only one requirement. You should have Azure CLI, latest version of Azure CLI installed on your local machine, and also you should have Azure account with the subscription. So we will see in demo. Next we have authenticating to Azure using a service principal and a client secret. So a service principal basically is an application within Azure Active Directory whose authentication token can be used as a client ID, client secret, and tenant ID fields needed by the Terraform. So basically in Azure provider block we have to pass client ID, client secret, and tenant ID and subscription ID if you are using a service principal and a client secret. So those are the parameters you have to pass in the Azure RM provider block. So basically there are 3 tasks to create a service principal using the Azure portal. So first thing, you have to create an application object in Azure Active Directory. Next you have to generate a client secret, and if you are using a client certificate, then you have to generate a client certificate. And finally you have to grant that application object which you have created to access on the subscription, so it can basically access the resources. So now let's jump to the demo. So I'm already having a Terraform configuration file which we are going to use to create a resources in Azure. So if you see, I have this Azure _auth.tf file. So here the first things what we are going to do, we are going to use Azure CLI. So if you see, this is the Terraform block basically. So here what we are doing, we are just specifying the source, like which provider we should use. Like in our case it's Azure RM, and the version. which version basically you need for this particular provider. So those things we are basically specifying here in Terraform block. Next we have provider block. So here basically authentication will happen. And then finally we have a resource block. So here what we are specifying the Azure RM resource group. Then we have a local name of this particular resource group, which is demo, and the name is equal to demo. Basically we are going to create a resource group named demo and the location in the West Europe region. And if you see another, we have service principal and the client secret as a parameter. So this I have commented because first we are going to see with the help of Azure CLI. So for Azure CLI, the main prerequisites, we have to install Azure CLI in your local machine. So I have already installed the Azure CLI. So if you have to verify, you will just open the terminal. So here I will run Azure. If you run it, it means we already have Azure CLI in place. So next thing what we have to do, we have to authenticate using the Azure CLI. So as soon as you run AZ, first we have to run Terraform init command. So what it will does, basically it will download this provider's plugin. So if you see here, we have only one file, which is azure_auth.tf file. We don't have any plugins directory here. So as soon as I run Terraform init command, it will start downloading the versions. If you see the matching version, which is 3.0, this version. So from this version plugin, basically it's going to download under this particular directory .terraform. So if I'll open this directory, providers, this is the registry URL of Terraform. This is Hasikop. Then we have Azure RM, and this is the version. If I'll open, this is the plugin basically which is installed. So this plugin is going to use to authenticate with the Azure. So now I will run AZ login command. So it's redirecting me to the Azure portal. So I'll choose my account. Now you have logged in into Microsoft Azure. So now we can close this particular window. So as soon as you authenticate, you will get the few details like subscription ID, tenant ID, username, which account you have using. So it means you have already authenticated with the Azure. So if you see in backend what is happening here, so in our user profile, it's going to download few of the files which will contain configurations detail to authenticate to the Azure CLI, to Azure. So if I'll go back to my user profile here, so you can see .azure folder is generated here. So if I'll open this particular folder, so we have here config file. So if I'll open this particular file, so here we have name core. So you will not see much details here. So what I will do, I'll use a profile file. So here you can see installation ID, subscription ID, name, which subscription you have, state, and user account. So all these details basically it's saved in this particular location. So as soon as you run a Terraform plan and Terraform apply commands, so this particular window is going to use this particular folder .azure to authenticate, because here we already have all the details which we required for the authentication purpose. So I'm going to create here resource group called demo. So if I'll open my Azure portal and I'll go to resource group, so here I don't have any resource group called demo. So now what I will do, I'll clear the screen and now run Terraform plan. So plan command, what it does, it basically give you what it's going to create for you based on the configuration which you have specified in this particular file. So I'll run Terraform plan. So now you can see Terraform plant command is executed and it's showing a plus plus. It means it's going to add these other resources like name, demo, location, best Europe, and ID will be generated after the Terraform apply command. So here we have plan 1 to add, 0 to change, and 0 to destroy. So now what we will do, we will run Terraform apply command. Now if you run only Terraform apply command, then it will, you have to manually enter, like it will ask you want to create yes or no. So you have to manually provide yes. So to avoid that manual things, what you can do, you can use auto approve. So it will not prompt for you, okay, the term, okay, it's a spelling mistake. So now it will not ask for you prompt, like you have to provide yes or no if you want to create or not. So it will automatically create without prompting. Now it's plan 1 to add, 0 to change, and 0 to destroy. So now it is executing. So now you can see Azure RM resource group demo creating and creation completed after 5 seconds. So if I'll go back to my Azure portal and I refresh my screen. So here, okay, it's not created. We'll wait for a couple of seconds. Okay, now it came. So demo resource group we have created here from the Terraform. So now what I will do, I will run Terraform destroy command to delete the resource group from the Azure portal. So now you can see here, it's earlier it was coming plus plus because it's going to add. Now if you can see here, after running the destroy command, it's coming minus. It means it's going to remove a resource group called demo. So if you see the process, it's destroying, and it will take at least a minute to destroy the complete resources. So now destroy process is completed. Now we will go to Azure portal and we'll refresh. Okay, still it's showing. Let's wait for a minute. Okay, now it's gone. So now you cannot see the demo resource group here. So this basically Azure CLI is authenticating with the help of .azure folder, which is created when we have ran Azure AZ login command. So if I'll remove this particular folder from here, I'm going to remove it. So we have deleted .azure folder. Now let's see if we are going to again create this particular resource or not. So I'll clear the window. I'll run Terraform apply. Okay, spelling mistake again. So now you can see it throw an error. Building Azure RM client obtains subscription from Azure CLI. So basically it's not able to find out the directory where it's saved all the details like subscription ID, tenant ID and all, because we have already removed the folder from this particular directory. So if you run, like as we run this particular what is called Terraform apply command again, so it will not getting if I'll go back to my Azure profile, so you can see here we have only installation ID. Earlier we were having subscription ID, tenant ID, username and also many details. Now we have only installation ID. So it's not basically authenticating, it's not getting the details to authenticate to Azure now. So that's why it's getting failed. So it's very important to keep, if you are using Azure CLI, you should keep this folder very securely to .azure folder, because we will have all the details which is required to authenticate if you are using Azure CLI. So now what we will do, I will comment out this particular block and we will see using the service principal and the client secret. So I will comment this particular things. Okay, so star should be first position. Okay, now what I will do, I will uncomment this particular block and will save it. So now what I'm going to do, first thing we need to create a application object, because we need client ID, client secret, tenant ID and subscription IDs. So those details we required first things if we are using a service principal and a client secret. So first we will go to Azure portal and we'll go to Azure Active Directory. So I'll go to app registration. So we will create an application object first. So I'll give the name Terraform and I'll hit on register. So now you can see you got the client ID and tenant ID. So what I will do, I'll copy the client ID from here and I'll replace it here. Next we need a tenant ID, client secrets. So client secrets we will hold for now. We'll copy the tenant ID because we already can see a tenant ID here. So I'll replace the tenant ID here. Next we need client secret. So I'll go back to my Azure portal. Now here you can see client credentials. So we'll click here, add a client credentials. Now here we have option for client secret and the certificates. So if you already have a certificate, you can upload that certificate and use it for the authentication. So I'm going to use for client secrets. So I hit on new and I then put name here Terraform, and expiry date you can choose as per your requirement, and I'm going to hit on add. So this value you have to copy it right away. If you move from this particular clipboard, again you will not see this value. So but you can also generate a new one. So I've already copied this here and I'll paste it in my source code. So configuration file, so client secret, I will copy it here. Next we need a subscription ID. So for that you have to go to your subscription, and this is the subscription ID. So I'm copy the subscription ID from here. Now next thing what we need to do, we need to provide the application object which we have created. If I'll go back to my AD and app registration, so this is the Terraform application object which we have created, but till we have not provided the access to this particular application object on the subscription to create any resources. So for that what we have to do, we have to go to subscription and we have to provide a role-based access control. So I'll go to my subscription, I'll go to IAM role. Now here I will add a role assignment. So I'll use as a contributor role. Next I'll choose a member. So here what we have to choose, we have to choose our application object which we have created. So we have created Terraform. So we'll add this Terraform and we'll hit on select. Okay, we'll hit on next and review and assign. So it's adding the role assignment for a application object in the subscription. So it's added now. So now what I will do, I'll go back to my Visual Studio Code editor. Now here I will run Terraform apply. So what I will do here, I will change the name here demo1. Local name you can keep anything. Now I will run -auto -approve. So now you can see authentication is completed. That's why we are getting this plus symbol. It is going to add this particular resource group ID name. Okay, we have okay. So I'll go back to my Azure portal and I'll go to resource group. So demo, but we have specified the name demo1. So let me quickly check. So what we did, basically we have made the changes demo1, but we have not saved this particular file. So I will basically save this file. Let me rename it test. And I'll save it. Now again I will run. So directly run the Terraform apply command. First you have to run plan command, so at least you can see what are the changes you are going to make or modify in your resource provider basically. So if I run Terraform plan, okay, so now you can see after running the Terraform plan, we can see it's going to create a resource group called test and named test, because earlier we have not saved this file after changing the name of resource group. So now I will run Terraform apply -auto -approve. So now you can see it destroyed a resource group called demo and it added the resource group named test. So if I'll go back to my resource group here, I'll refresh it. Okay, we'll wait for a minute to reflect the changes. Okay, so now you can see we have got test resource group which we have created here, and if you can see this demo resource group, it's removed now. So if I'll again refresh my screen, sometime it will take couple of minutes to reflect the changes on the Azure portal. So now you can see we have only one resource group test which we have created. So I'll clear this screen. Now you have provided these parameters in the configuration file itself, but it's not recommended because it can easily compromise if you checked in this particular file in the source control. So it's a good practice, if you are using a parameter for the authentication, you should add these parameters in the environment variable. So I'm not going to cover that part because the same things we have already discussed in the AWS when we did AWS provide authentication video. So if you have not watched, you can go ahead and watch that video. So if you can see here, if you are using as an environment variable, then you have to basically create these 4 variables in the system environment variable: ARM underscore client ID, client secret, tenant ID, and subscription ID. So now in the provider block here, basically we have provided client ID, secret, tenant ID, and subscription ID. But if you are using as an environment variable, you should not specify anything, because it will automatically take these values from your system environment variable. So that's all for today. See you in next video. Thank you so much.